The goal of this series is to give you, the viewer, an in-depth look at my strategies for helping a problem drinker to learn how to drink responsibly, or, as we in the business know it, practice low-risk drinking. In order to do that, I want to tell you about a typical client of mine, Brad. Brad is an attorney who came to see me about his drinking. But before I go any further, I will tell you that Brad isn't really Brad, and Brad isn't really an attorney. In fact, everything I tell you about Brad isn't really true about Brad, because Brad doesn't exist. Brad is a composite of characteristics, traits, behaviors, situations, and thoughts of literally hundreds of clients I've seen over the years that all seem to have the exact same story. Think of Brad as the quintessential problem drinker, a synthesis of the typical characteristics and experiences of problem drinkers. Brad came to see me because his wife had finally had enough of his drinking and had moved out several weeks previously. Brad admitted that on the night before his wife moved out, he had drank way too much and really couldn't remember exactly what had happened. He knew that they had gotten into it about something, but he couldn't remember what he said to her. He was pretty sure it was pretty ugly, and she was pissed beyond belief. This wasn't the first time this sort of thing had happened, but this was the final straw for her. She was gone until he got some help. Brad was not interested in hiding anything from me. He freely admitted that he drinks way too much. He mostly drinks beer, but when the party gets rolling, he's not one to turn down a shot either. He really couldn't remember how much he had drank the night before his wife left, but he admitted it was probably more than 10 beers and at least a couple of shots. Brad went on to explain that most of his friends and colleagues drink that way too, and this is pretty much what he has done for as long as he can remember, since law school for sure. He works hard, has a thriving practice, a great group of friends. He's very active socially, has a good income, goes to church, works out regularly, eats pretty healthy. Life is pretty good, or at least it was until a couple of weeks ago. His wife drinks too, but not like that. She drinks a couple of glasses of wine and then switches to water. She can't understand why he drinks like he does. She's pleaded with him to cool it, and Brad has promised to do better, but ultimately he doesn't. He gets with the guys, and before you know it, things are out of control again. It's not like Brad gets smashed and breaks things, or winds up puking in the car. He just drinks too much, and inevitably winds up doing or saying things that lead to arguments and nasty exchanges. Brad admits that pretty much most of his life, his leisure activities somehow have involved alcohol. Golfing, boating, skiing, weekends at the lake cottage. The beer is always flowing. Everyone Brad knows drinks as much, or even more, as Brad does. Brad cannot even imagine his life without alcohol. But Brad has a big problem. He can't imagine his life without his wife and family either. The past couple of weeks have been a time of reflection for Brad. He's come to grips with the fact that his wife is right. He doesn't need to drink that much. It does lead to arguments and big problems. He's recently been diagnosed with borderline high blood pressure, and even though he's never missed a day of work, he admits that he has come in hungover at times, and he realizes that's just not cool. Like almost 100% of my clients, Brad has tried to cut back himself on his use of alcohol. But he admits that this really hasn't worked for him. He can have every good intention of drinking in moderation, but once he gets going, his good intentions go right out the window, and he winds up drinking his usual amount. Brad has never really looked at it as a problem before, but he admits that maybe his attitude is about to change. He's done a bit of research on the internet and realizes that the amount he drinks is well above safe levels. And he has found that most of what he finds in the way of treatment is about abstinence. That is, until a friend mentioned my name. This friend was in a very similar situation a couple of years ago, and he now enjoys having a few beers at a party or a ball game and calling it quits. This got Brad's attention, and so he gave me a call. What follows on the rest of these videos in this series is an accounting of the strategies I use to help the Brads of this world become responsible drinkers, or more specifically, low-risk drinkers. I will walk you through the steps of cognitive behavioral therapy and my own brand of cognitive audiovisual techniques to create a responsible drinker's mindset. So, if you are a Brad